Salam sejahtera and good morning to Dr. Helmi. My name is Waredi Sukawit Anak Perempuan Raton. My metric number is 2X7080. So, I will start presenting about what is hypothesis and what is hypothesis testing. Hypothesis is a statement about population for the purpose of testing, while hypothesis testing is the sample that we need to determine whether it is false or true.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Suryani binti Afindi. My metric number is 2X7727. I will continue this presentation and I will present about objective of one sample test of hypothesis. The first objective is define and formulate hypothesis and hypothesis testing. The next objective is explain the 5 steps of hypothesis testing procedure. In addition, the third objective is determine whether to use one tail or two tail of hypothesis and find a p-value. Meanwhile, the next objective is carry out a test of hypothesis mean and it continue with conduct hypothesis test on population proportion. And finally, the last objective is identify and define type 1 and type 2 errors and interpret the level of significance. So after clearly with the objective, and we'll continue with the question 1, and this is the question. So from the question above, we solve and find the answer by using the 6 steps. I will start with the first step, which is that the null hypothesis and the alternate hypothesis. So for the null hypothesis is the statement about the value of population parameter, and H null hypothesis is read as a H sub 0. Meanwhile, for the alternate hypothesis, a statement that is accepted if the sample data show that the null hypothesis is wrong, and H alternate is read as a H sub 1. So for this question, H null hypothesis is equal sign with 0. Meanwhile, H alternate hypothesis is otherwise. This is because no matter how the problem is stated, the null hypothesis will always contain the equal sign. The equal sign will never appear in the alternate hypothesis. Furthermore, for the next step, which is a step 2, is select the level of significance. For this part is to choose the level of significance after establishing the null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. The purpose of this part is when the null hypothesis is correct, the probability of rejecting it is high. Moreover, the level of significance can be any value between 0 and 1. And for answer this question, we use 0.01 because it has given from the statement by the question above. As note, the 0.01 level of significance is used. This is alpha, the probability of accumulating a type 1 error, and it is the probability of rejecting a true null hypothesis. After we settle with step 2, and we will continue with step 3, which is select the test statistic. Basically, test statistic is a value derived from sample data is used to determine whether the null hypothesis should be rejected. For this question, since the question states the sample size is 10, the mean is not given, we decide to use the t-distribution. The t-distribution is also known as a student's t-distribution, and it is a type of a normal distribution used for smaller sample size, where the variance is data is unknown. From the formula t-distribution, we can find the mean of the sample, the hypothesis population mean, standard deviation, and the sample of the number of observation in the sample. An extension of the description, we get the final answer of the t-distribution is 2.46 after applying the data into the formula. I'm done explain about 3 steps, and I will pass to the next presenter to explain about the next step. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Din Syatian bin Azli, and now I would like to share with you guys about step 4. Okay, step 4 is formulating the decision rule. Okay, as you can see in the diagram, I can tell that there are 9 degrees of freedom found by n-1, which is 10 minus 1 equals to 9. And then the critical value is 2.8214, found by referring for the one-tail test. Okay, now we go to the next step, which is step 5. Okay, step 5 is making a decision. Okay, in this step, we have to computing the test statistic, comparing it to the critical value, and making a decision to reject or not to reject the null hypothesis. Okay, as you can see in the diagram, these are the final answer for this question, for this step, and the final answer is 7.2352. Okay, we can conclude that The null hypothesis that the population mean is less than or equal to 14 is rejected because the computed t-value of 7.2352 is in the area to the right of 2.8214.
Good morning, Dr. Helmi. My name is Janshini and my metric number is 286416. Based on question 2 shows sample of scores on an examinations given in statistic 201. Men recorded 72, 69, 98, 66, 85, 76, 79, 80, 77, 81, 67, 90, 78, 81, 80, and 76. However, women recorded 81, 67, 90, 78, 81, 80, and 76. At the 0.1 significance level, is the mean grade of the woman higher than that of the men? There are 5 steps of the hypothesis testing procedure. The first step is to state the null and alternative hypothesis. The following null and alternative hypotheses need to be tested. H0 is mu smaller and equal to mu2. H1 is mu1 greater than mu2. In conclusion, this corresponds to a right tilt test for which a t-test for the two populations means with 2 independent samples with unknown population standard deviations will be used. The second step is rejection region. Based on the information provided, the significance level is alpha equal to 0.01 and the degrees of the freedom are df equals to 14. The degrees of the freedom are computed as follows, assuming that the population variance are equal. Hence, it is found that the critical value for this right tilt test is Tc equals to 2.624, for alpha is 0.01 and df is 14. Therefore, the rejection region for this right tilt test is R equals to t is greater than 2.624. So, let us look at the next slide on how to find mean. The mean refers to the average of a set of value. The mean formula is the sum of all items divided by the numbers of the item. For example, the mean grade of men equal to 72 plus 69 plus 98 plus 66 plus 85 plus 76 plus 79 plus 80 plus 77 divide 9 equals to 78 marks. However, the mean grade of women is 81 plus 67 plus 90 plus 78 plus 81 plus 80 plus 76 divided by 7 equal to 79 marks. Is the analysis of the standard deviation. The standard deviation formula is square root summations of x minus mean power of 2 divided by n minus 1. For men, step 2 is for each data point, find the square of its distance to the mean is equal to square root of divide by 9 minus 1. Step 3, sum the values from step 2 is the equal to square root of 720 divided by 8. Step 4, divide by the numbers of the data points. It is equal to the square root of 90. Step 5, take the square root, then the answer is equal to 9.486. For women, step 2, find the square of its distance to the mean for each data point is equals to the square root of divide by 7 minus 1. Step 3, sum the values from step 2 is equal to the square root of 284 divided by 6. Step 4, divide by the numbers of data points. It is equal to the square root of 47.333. Step 5, take the square root and then the answer equals to 6.879. Therefore, the total is 9.486 plus 6.879 equals to 16.365.
So I will continue to present about question number 2 after Yi do some analyze about this question. After do some analyze about the, question number 2, we know that the question is about two sample tests because we have women and men. And the question also say that we need to determine whether women has higher mean than men or not. So this means that we need to do one tail test hypothesis. Other than that, we need to determine whether to use Z value or T value. For this question, we need to use T value because first, we does not know the standard deviation for this sample. And second, we also have sample less than 30. So that's why we need to use T value. So after we get means and standard deviation value of women and men, we can move to the next step, which is step 2. For step 2, we need to find the pool sample variance value because for two sample tests, we need to use pool sample variance to determine the T values for next step. So for pool sample variance formula is N1 in this case is sample for women, so N1 minus with 1 in bracket and time with standard deviation 1 or standard deviation for women and square root plus with N2 which is sample for men, so 1, 2, N2 minus with 1 in bracket and time with standard deviation for men and square root. So after we get all this value, we need to divide with sample for men and plus sample for women and or sample for women plus with sample for men and subtract with 2. So we will get the value of pool for the sample variance. So we can plug in all the value in this formula. Means that 7 minus with 1 time with standard deviation for women 6.88 and square root plus with 9 subtract with 1 and time with standard deviation for men which is 9.49 and square root. So the value that we get is 1004.4872. So this value we divided by sample for women plus with sample for men which is 7 plus 9 subtract with 1. So we get 14. So 1004.4872 divided by 40, we will get 71.7491. So after we get the value of pool sample variance, we can use this answer to plug in the formula of T to determine whether the has none or has one is true or false. So the T value is means for women subtract with mean for men and divided by power root of pool sample variance values and in bracket time with in bracket 1 over N1 or sample for women plus with 1 over N2. So we will get the value of T. So which means that 79 subtract with 78 or divided by power root 71.7491 time with 1 divided by 7 plus with 1 divided by 9 and we will get the answer is 0.2343. So after we get the T value, we can move to the last step which is make the decision. So we know that T value is 0.2343. So we can recall back to the significant value that we get at the first step. The decision that we make is we reject his none if T bigger than 2.624. But now we already get the T value which is we get 0.2343. which means that we fail to reject his none. So the statement said that the mean for women is greater or higher than the mean for men is not true. So we can conclude that the mean for women is not bigger than mean for men.